Good afternoon, and I hope you enjoyed your Labor Day weekend. Today we're going to cover in Chapter 3, decimals. Before we get into it, I wanted to cover a couple questions that quite a few people had on the homework. So we're going to look at number 38 on our homework that was due this past Sunday. And then we're going to look at 46. So those were two that tripped up most students. But let's look at the questions themselves. So the question said, Pete bought 6/7 tons of crushed rock. He only used 3/4 of it. How much unused crushed rock does Pete have left? That was found on page 57, number 38. So we see that he bought 6/7 tons. He only used 3/4 tons, so he had 1/4 ton, or 1/4 of it unused. So we're actually have to go to use multiplication instead of subtraction. And so 6/7 times 1/4, which is what's left of the tonnage, or the 6/7 of a ton, you can actually reduce down. So you can take a 2 out of both of these. So you have 3 times 1 is 3. 7 times 2 is 14. So there's actually 3/14 of a ton left. The second one was number 46. White Mountains was 2 hours and 3/4 away from Boston, and they said that you had traveled 1/11 of the distance so far. They wanted to know how much longer would it take to get all the way there. So we still had 10/11ths left to get to Boston, and we know the total time. So if we know what we have remaining, which is 10/11ths, times the total amount of time it takes to get there, so 4 times 2 is 8 plus 3 is 11, so we have 11/4 as the total time. Well, these can cross out. You can take a 2 out of both of these, so you have 10/4, or known as 5/2, which is also 2.5. So they weren't supposed to trick you up. It's just kind of seeing if you pay attention to actually what it says. Like this one, the one unused and total amount of time left. So if you have any other questions, feel free to email, let me know, and I'd love to cover more questions for you. So in Chapter 3, we're going to cover decimals, and we talked about it in Chapter 1. The decimal system and the decimal point is for basically the middle point of the whole base 10 number, which is the system that we use. And so digits to the right of the decimal point are decimal numbers. And the rounding is very similar as regular whole numbers. So we have, like we had previous, where we had counting upwards by powers of 10. We had 10, 100, thousands going to the left. Well, now we have tenths, hundreds, thousands, 10,000s, 100,000s, and going this way. So if I wanted to round this number, 0.47892, and I said round it to the hundreds, I'm going to look at the hundred spot, and to the right of that is what's going to determine what I do. So I'm going to look at that 8. Since 8 is 5 or above, we're going to increase our hundreds by 1, and then we drop the remaining to 0. So this would then actually become 0.48000. So it's very similar. We're just now looking at the right side of the number. So most of the problems in this chapter come from going from decimals to fractions back to decimals, just kind of understanding how that works. So we're going to divide our numerator by our denominator and then get our decimal place in there. So if we wanted to use a fraction, let's say 5/16, what I'd do is I would bring these down, and I'd have this as my divisor, 16, which is my denominator, and I'd have my dividend of 5. And so can 16 go into 5? No. So I'm going to have to add my point. And can it go on to 50? Well, yeah, it can. It can go 3 times and have 48 left over. And then can 16 go into 48? Well, yeah. I mean, actually, 48, we have a 2 left over. So we bring down our 0. Can 16 go into 20? Yeah, one time. So we have 20 minus 16 is 4. We add our 0, so we're going to be in our thousands position. Can 16 go into 40? Yes, 2 times, and that's 32. So we have our 2, and we have an 8 left over. We carry our last 0 all the way down, and 80. Well, half of 16, or 160, is 80, so it can go in 5 times. So getting to the decimal is the same. Instead of just using the remainder, we're using the decimal places and actually working it out. The key to this is making sure when you add and subtract is making sure that you align properly. So I wrote some random numbers down. 4 plus 0.083 plus 712.75. And what's easiest is if I just fill in those gaps with extra zeros so I can stay aligned. So I have a 3, 8 plus 5 is 13, carry my 1, which is 8. So 4 plus 2 is 6, nothing carries, 1, 7. So it's just really important to make sure that you stay aligned properly. They did say having a fraction in your decimal. How does that work? Well, we're going to look at this number, which is 0.24 and a half, which is, we're going to look at the half, and the half is basically 0.5, because we know 2 divided by 1 is 0.5. And since this is in the thousand spot, we have to take the previous one, which is in the hundreds. So 0.01, so 1/100th times the 0.5, which is what this is, gets us 0.005. So 0.5 thousandths. We add our previous 0.24, and you get basically 245. And then if you want to convert that back into a fraction, well, if you have to move the decimal place 3 times, then you need 3 zeros. So it would be 245 over 1,000. The last one is just in multiplication and division. Remember, we multiply just like the regular whole numbers, then we count the decimal places, and we start at the right and count back to put our decimal places back. And so how we're going to do this, we're actually going to look at cumulative homework, which is due this coming Sunday, page 87. We're going to look at number 7, so we're actually going to do it for you. So if you watch these, there you go, automatic point. But basically it says that, I guess I could read it to you, what the question says. But on page 87, it says, lady goes into a tire store. Lily Wong bought 4 new tires at $82.99 each. Firestone charged her $2.80 per tire for mounting, $1.95 for valves, $3.15 for balancing, and $1.50 for disposing of them. What was Lily's final bill? So first off, what's our facts? Well, we know the prices on each thing. So what do we want to figure out? Well, we want to know what her end bill is going to be without taxes. And so how we're going to figure that out is in 2 parts. First part is, let's figure out how much the tires cost. So we have $82.99 times 4, because she got 4 tires. And there's 2 ways you can do this. You can either look and see, wow, this is really close to 83, or you can actually do this out longhand. I like shortcuts, and so I did it the shortcut route, which is I saw this as 83 times 4, which is 332, because I did the math. Okay, 80 times 4 is 320, 3 times 4 is 12, add 320 and 12 together is 332, minus our 4 cents, because that's how many we're off, gets me 331.96. Or you can do it long route, which will get us the same number. So 4 times 6 is 36, carry my 3, 9, carry my 3, 8, 11, 1, so carry my 1, 32, 33. So we have the same number. So we know how much our tires cost. Then it said that it was $2.80 for the balance, or for changing, or for mounting them, $1.95 for the stems, $3.15 for the balancing, and then $1.50 for taking the old ones. So we add that together, and this gets you use in your addition skills that you just had with decimals, and you get 940 times the 4 tires. Then you get to implement your multiplication skills, 3760. Now you add that to your total cost, and let me align these so I can actually add them. So it should be, so 6, 9, 15, 1, 9, 6, 3. So Lily walked out with 4 new tires, but $396.56 less in her pocketbook. So that would do everything you needed for number 7 on the homework. Division, same thing. You just, if you have a fraction, bring it to decimal, so that would be 3.75 ounces divided by 58 cents to figure out your per ounce. I did the division here, the long math, and you get about 15.5 cents an ounce. So if you have questions, feel free, email me. That should wrap up chapter 3. So I'll put the notes up for chapter 6 just after this. Thanks. Bye.